A little bit of chopped up fruit for the chicks this morning. Hello girls. What have I got for you? There we go, special treat. Right, let's go and have a look what we've got to do. Well, you might see them in the distance. I gave in to the lure of that cheap wood, and these really are very substantial, quite heavy, a bit wider than I thought. As you can see, two together, yeah, it makes a good 5 inches, I would think, and there's 11 of those. So yeah, really pleased with that, and that gives me a couple of options in terms of whether I build the retaining wall or I go down and try and make some surrounds for those beds where the edges are breaking down. So I'm gonna have to move those to get working back in this area, and I'm fast approaching, well, the heavy lifting, which is this mound. And I'm thinking that I'll get my Chillington hoe out and, to start with, break it up, give myself a couple of bites of the cherry. Right, well, I'm going to get these, I think, down on my gravel path, just so that they're out of view from the, well, roadway, and then I can get a bit more sifting done, finish off those last few pots, and then I'll get into the heavy lifting. I'm sort of putting it off, but it's got to be done. Well, that's a lot clearer. I can see my way clear to the next step. Let me take you down Raspberry Avenue. That's a fair old lot of raspberries. A lot of DIY going on as well. But they're nicely positioned, and they'll stay there now for as long as it takes, which is the aim really. And they'll hopefully shoot and maybe even start to grow on. And I was thinking yesterday that in terms of picking which ones to use, because I'm sure there's more than I need there, I can wait to see which ones start to shoot and show some sort of signs of activity, and that'll give me a good indicator of what's best to transplant into the new bed when it's done. Right, I think it's heavy lifting time. I'll put a couple of, well, Chillington hoe stabs into this clay mound and see what sort of depth I'm working to and what I need to do. Well, you can see the topsoil is okay, but of course it's got a lot of grass in it. But I could probably knock some decent soil out of there, and then once you get down under that, you get this really solid red clay. I'm sure you can make pottery out of this. So I think if I can clear the top, perhaps drag it over the back here, then break grass out of it, then I will have got the top off this mound, and hopefully I'll know that I'm just digging into clay from that point on. Okay. Heart beating and their lungs pumping, which is good. Give me a good workout. Let's have a look. From this end you get more of an idea of the job in hand. As we approach it, you can see the size of that mound of clay, and that's going to take some moving. And I'm going to need a good plan for moving it. I think having a wheelbarrow up here is really not a good idea. I probably need to get the barrow down on the gravel level and give myself a path, perhaps put a gap between two sets of these pieces of wood, and then I can run the wheelbarrow all the way down and down to the bottom where it's going to end up. But you can see the amount of clay here, and I'm pretty sure once I get underneath the bulk of that, probably down to this sort of level, I should get back to that type of soil. And I've tried to break up everything, and my main motivation really is to stop any further growth of grass and dock leaves and various weeds. So that's going to break it all up and stop the growing. And I think my whole next tranche of work will be about taking everything that I've loosened there, get it into the barrow, get it down to the bottom, and then I can have a go at another layer. And I think probably a couple of attempts at this fairly extensive mound should move most of it away. So I've got myself a job for the next few weeks, that's for sure. But I'm already starting to feel like it's a very different look to the plot, and it will be very exciting to have raspberries going on and up through there. And I've got these pieces of wood, 3 pieces like this, and I need to think about a frame for raspberries. And what I was thinking is if I can bury a good 2 foot of that and have a cross piece going at the top, I'll have 2 ends of a pretty good framework for raspberries. But I am getting ahead of myself. Okay, I think that's going to be me done for today. A good workout and a few more to come. Well, I need to get myself a route through here. I'm figuring that if I can get a free space in the middle, I can run the wheelbarrow down that. Get a couple of pyramids of this wood. There we go, that should do it. Hopefully that won't bottom out. Actually, I think I'll put that one over there, and then the barrow can come down, because I really don't think I'm going to be able to get it down from that height each time. So lots of earth movement now. Might be quite boring, so I'll speed it up. Wow, that was physical. Certainly gets the heart pumping again. And different exercises, they have different effects on your body, and this is definitely your back. So I think I'm going to give back a bit of a rest. Maybe move on to shoulder before I go home today. But let's have a look at what's been done. So you can see all the clay and soil that I'd chipped away at and was laying on the surface is now gone, and that gives me a fresh layer to have a crack at. This plan of working down this path worked quite well. I have to be careful about the mud that I'm generating on the grass. I mean, it always recovers, but I'm just thinking about how much it can tolerate. Trying to take different routes down the allotment into the base area. I'll show you what it looks like now I've offloaded that first layer of clay. And there you are. You can see it's quite a volume. And this clay, it becomes a bit more workable when it dries out. And therefore, I think I'm just going to create my layer along this area that I intend to raise. and then wait for some drier weather before I start to break it down. And you know, it looks quite thick at the moment, but to be honest with you, once you start working it, it levels out quite quickly. And of course I can always carry on down into the compost area, which never hurts if it has a little bit more height, because I don't want the water pooling in there. Right, I think I'll have 5 minutes and then I'll get the old Chillington hoe out and just take some chunks out the top, and that'll do me for this morning. Well, that little movement of horse manure was essential. I might have other projects going on the plot, but you can't give up the bread and butter. And for me, that's the compost engine that feeds the plot week in, week out. And I've covered it over now, and I think it's probably going to warm up nicely. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, the steam is rising from under there, which is good news. I might give that a temperature check at some point. Meanwhile, Mrs. K has been super busy on the blackcurrant area, and she's removed all the brambles and a lot of the stinging nettles. Done a fantastic job, which has saved me a lot of work and means that I'll be able to carry on with what I'm doing up with the raspberries. So, I've got a few other things to show you. Come and have a look at this. So I'm hearing a lot about moles that are digging up the earth and making mounds in all the wrong places. Mine, not too much trouble, but look at the size of that. This mole has been super busy. He's in there. There's a bit of an annex going on here, and alongside my paths I'm also getting quite a lot of activity. But as I've said before, they do me no real harm, and therefore they're not a problem to me. So lots of people have been giving me suggestions about the clay that I'm digging out of this raspberry bed. And as you can see, some of this clay, the prime chunks, has no soil on it really. It's just solid clay. And the suggestion is that I take it over there and create a barrier, which I'm really warming to that idea. So I think what I'm going to do next is just put aside, well, the best pieces of that clay and store it perhaps just along here, and then I can work a plan to find out the best way of configuring it down here. And who knows, there might be enough just to put some outside as well. But I really like the idea of that clay that's got a real density to it, stopping any root growth into the bed. So thanks everybody for a great idea. Okay, I think my next stop is potatoes. So today I found seed potatoes in one of our local stores and bought myself 2 bags of Charlotte, which is really the only potato that I think I'm going to carry on growing because it's so productive for me. What I have got to do is empty out these last few pots, because there are some potatoes left, and that will release a bit of compost, release some pots, and get me ready for the next growing season. First of all, it's going to be a case of chitting potatoes, but there's plenty of videos that cover that, and I'll start that process. I won't be putting them out for a fair old while yet. Before I do the potatoes, I'm just going to take some temperatures. I think I should have been a nurse. 60 degrees in this one, so that one's dropped by 5 degrees, And let's have a look at this new one, see what's happening. Well, my highest temperature achieved this year on the compost heaps has been 65 degrees centigrade. So let's get this one down and see what's happening. 40, 50, 60, 62, 64, 66. Yep, it's a record for this year. Just moving into 67 degrees centigrade, and standing there with my hands on this blue cover, I can actually feel the heat. And we're up to 68 now. It's pretty darn warm in there. Right, potatoes. Well, I'm getting plenty of potatoes out, which is fantastic. And it won't be too long before this compost is being used again for potatoes. So I'm already going to start the feeding process to rejuvenate it. And this is organic potato fertilizer. It's relatively cheap stuff, but it's good to mix it in at this stage, and that'll start the feeding process going. And I'll be putting that into this composter where I've been putting all the compost as I've gone along, and literally just feed it in. And I'll get through these next couple of pots and that'll be all the compost then stored. And I've got plenty of it because I've even got compost from last year that I stored, which I haven't yet used. So this year it's a bit different because I've already got 8 pots with garlic in, so I'm not going to be growing quite as many potatoes. And based on the ones that I've got left at this time of year, I think that's the right decision. Right, onward with this. Well, that's me pretty much done for today. There's 4 pots left there. There's just a limit to how much I want to take home at any one time, but that gives you some sort of idea. And I think it's quite a good advert for Charlotte potatoes. Here we are, almost bumping into the next growing season, and they're still coming out pretty darn well. There is a bit of scab on a few of them, but there's also an awful lot that are absolutely perfect, and that will keep us in potatoes for a week or so. And those last 4 can come out in one batch. Well, if you've enjoyed today's video, why not click on the like button and even subscribe? And if you want my updates, you know the score, 8 PM on a Wednesday and a Sunday. I'm off to clean the chickens out. I'll see you next time. Diolch yn fawr.